This week on the Analog Circle podcast, we get more information and a deeper understanding of the story behind Marvel 1943. Sega may not be working on releasing any mini consoles, but their alternative seems to fit the Sega mold much better. We could be getting another resurgence of a sports title that has been dormant for quite some time. Oh, you got to blame NCAA football for that. We get more Nintendo Switch 2 rumors about the graphical power, the graphical prowess of this console. Now, we know that it was rumored that it's supposed to play AAA games, and after this report, that seems a little bit more realistic. And we get a new report on Naughty Dog's intergalactic The Heretic Prophet on a specific theme that the game may lean into. All of these stories can be found in much more in episode 237 of the Analog Circle podcast. I am your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and welcome to the show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in, sit down, relax, take a load off. And if you're not at home or at the office and you're out driving, hopefully, or traveling, hopefully we will be able to stick with you throughout your travels to your destination. Now, as always, if you guys do want to be a part of listener feedback, you can do it two different ways. You can either call in at 443-627-9087 and let your voice be heard, or you can email the show, and the email address is simply theanalogcirclepodcast@gmail.com. Now, with that being said, guys, this is the first episode of 2025. It is actually January 1st, 2025. So, Happy New Year, God dog it. Happy New Year. Hopefully you guys were out there having a blast. I can't say the same. I was at work. Brother was working. I was up in Buffalo. Man, I'm so glad I got up out of there because they're about to get some snow in the next couple of hours, or at least in another day or so. So I'm glad that I was able to get back and enjoy at least my day, starting out 2025. But with that being said, though, guys, I do believe it is time to get into what we all come here for, and that is the gaming news that went down. So let's go ahead and let's get things started with the story that I got from VGC. So let's start this week off with one of my most anticipated games releasing this year, Marvel 1943. Now, Amy Hennig sat down with Entertainment Weekly and said this about the project, and I quote, "It led us to do a bunch of interesting things, one of which was to not only tell a story with the young Steve Rogers, who's still trying to find his feet, as opposed to the more seasoned guy that we've seen in a lot of the films. It also let us introduce a new Black Panther of 1943. It led us to tap into all the things that I love, all of the wonderful tropes of World War II era adventure films, classic men on a mission movies, and all of that. There's a lot of intrigue in our story, a lot of twists and turns, fascinating characters, and interesting locations." End of quote. Now, this says to me, woo, this game not only graphically looks amazing, but having Amy Hennig at the helm, one of the creators, or at least one of the originators who worked on Uncharted, having her story, how could I say this? Her story prowess, as it were, being in this project, man, this is amazing. And her saying that they're taking a step back with the Steve Rogers, who's actually getting his footing. He's still becoming Captain America, he's probably going to go through a couple of bumps and lumps and bruises as he's getting his footing, as she said. And then she even pointed out the fact that they were able to make a new Black Panther of 1943, which I do believe is going to be T'Challa. Now, keep in mind, and I got to put this out there, my Marvel lore is not that great. I haven't been watching the Marvel movies too tough in over a decade. I'm sure it's been at least about that long. So I'm not 100% sure on all of the different tropes and things that go into these Marvel movies, but nonetheless, it seems like this is going to be a Black Panther before the Black Panther of the Black Panther. We're talking about probably 3 generations before the modern day Black Panther actually gets into play. So with them actually being able to go back, in time and these different twists that are going to happen, and these guys, these characters that are going to be on a mission in World War II, in the World War II era, this seems absolutely great. But Amy Hennig did show, now this is where it got real interesting. Amy Hennig did show new concept art of Wakanda and said, quote, Wakanda at this point in time is hidden away from the outside world. Oh man, shout out to you, brother. I'm gonna have to get back to that brother. That was my best man. He ain't gonna know this, but shout out to my brother Nard, man. Shout out to you. This brother called me on the phone, probably trying to wish me a happy new year. I don't. He might hear this later. I know that was so unprofessional. Let me turn this phone down. Hold on. Let me turn this down. God dog, I thought I turned it off. Hold on, y'all. God dog. All right, let me turn it. Matter of fact, it's always unprofessional productions over here. My bad. But let's get back into it. So, this is what she said. She said, Amy Hennig, she showed off the new concept art. And yes, she said, Wakanda at this point in time is hidden away from the outside world and protected by its impenetrable jungle. They are now interventionists, but events transpire to pull them into the conflict. They have to protect their interests. The world is getting smaller. No satellites yet, but there will be soon. You can shoot down planes that maybe want to fly over Wakanda, but how long can you stay in the shadows? End of quote. So it looks like at this point in time, Wakanda's safe. You can't really tell where it is on the map. The jungle's kind of got it covered over in its impenetrable state, but it is getting to the point where things are starting to get a little smaller. Planes are starting to fly over. Yeah, you can shoot the plane out the sky, but how long will you be able to hide this civilization? These guys got to get involved. They got to protect, their interests. So because of that, Wakanda is going to be in the game, which is amazing. That is fantastic. I can't wait to see the kind of angle that they go with. I mean, what's that? Vibranium from Wakanda. I mean, this stuff is like doggone Wolverine claws on crack. It's just absolutely amazing. As far as like the dexterity, not the dexterity, but how strong it is. It's vibranium stuff is unbelievable. But it's just very interesting to see what they're going to do, because when you look at that trailer, when you look at the characters, it's 4 different characters. You got Captain America, you got Black Panther, you got a female character, and then you have a male character. He looks like he's actually in the military as well. So is it going to be a situation? I mean, I'm just curious. Now, we've seen Grand Theft Auto do it already. We've seen maybe a couple of other games do it. One of the originators that have switched different roles or different perspectives in a game. The first game that I can think of that ever did that, we're talking about, you got to go back to PlayStation, Resident Evil 2, where you got to see the game from 2 different perspectives, but it was the same game. So with that being said, having us know that there are 4 characters that are going to be involved in this story, will we be picking up on certain parts with different characters? I mean, we already saw it with Spider-Man 1. We saw it with Spider-Man 2. Oh man, they really expound on it in Spider-Man 2. Absolutely sensational. Fantastic. I mean, the different characters that you got to play as in that game. So could it be a situation where Amy Hennig is actually giving you that even if it's more of a power dynamic, because I don't want to get into spoilers, but certain characters are stronger than others in some of these games. So when we go from Captain America, to Black Panther, and then the soldier, who of course he doesn't have any superpowers, he got a weapon. This brother got to shoot his way up out of conflict. Will it be a situation where we'll see things from his perspective? And how will all four of these different stories, come together as one? This is so interesting. I cannot wait for this game, and just hearing that Wakanda seems to be making an appearance in this game, this is just looking fantastic. So yeah, this game, man, Unreal Engine 5, I know Cody Clark. I know, brother. Cody Clark and a couple of people don't like Unreal Engine 5, but doggone, this game is singing inside of that engine. So I'm definitely looking forward to this one. But let's go ahead, guys, and let's get into the next story that I actually also got from VGC. So anyone that's into the horror genre, no doubt, knows about the Dead Space franchise. And as a matter of fact, a remake of the first one actually released in 2023. I actually have it. Haven't played it yet, but I have it. It released, I believe, in January of that year, of 2023, last year. Now, it actually released to critical success. So, taking a gamble on a new entry in the franchise, you would think that would be a shoo-in, right? I mean, you would think, look, this game came out. It was fantastic. Think it was up for Game of the Year last year. It came out to amazing scores. Matter of fact, just so I'm not blowing smoke here, let's look up the score of what it got. Let's see. Hold on. Give me a second here. Let's look this up. Because, I'm actually curious to know. All right. What score did Dead Space Remake receive? All right, so it got a shugs 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 84 out of 100. So yeah, it was a great game. Very, very well received. So with that being said, you would think that would have done a lot of goodwill in order for them to have a Dead Space 4 possibly come to the table. Well, not so fast, because three key developers from the original game, Glenn Schofield, the original director of Dead Space from 2008, the animation director, Christopher Stone, and creative director, Brett Robbins. Now, they were all rejected when they pitched a Dead Space 4. Now, Schofield said, and I quote, "Well, we didn't go too deep. They just said no. We're not interested right now." End of quote. Now, Schofield said they respected their opinion and understood they know their numbers and what they have to ship. Now, Stone also said, quote, "The industry is in a weird place right now. People are really hesitant to take chances on things. So you've got to know, take it with a grain of salt. Who knows? Maybe one day. I think we'd all love to do it." End of quote. Now, reports. Now, this is where it gets interesting because, like he said, the gaming space, man, these cats ain't taking too many chances with these tens or 20s of hundreds of millions of dollars. They would rather put their money on a sure bet, So with that being said, it was actually some numbers that came out. So when it comes to Dead Space Remake, it only sold, and I couldn't believe this, man. Dead Space Remake, as great as it was for all of the things that it did well, even improving on things from the original to the remake, it only sold 2 million copies. I said, God dang, man, 2 million copies is all the game sold, and it's a multi-plat. We're talking about Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, and PC. All of the different platforms, and it sold 2 million copies. Now, when you break that down, essentially at $70 a copy, when you break that down, the game made about $140 million. Now, to put that number in perspective, now the budget was reported to be between 30 to 40 million dollars, allegedly. So even possibly making $100 million in profit wasn't enough. But to be fair, God dog, I said it once, I'm going to say it again. 2 million copies isn't really setting the gaming streets on fire. So when EA saw that number, 2 million, we might have made 100 million. We wanted to make 300 million. You know, I could see them possibly being like, nah, that's not really the move. You know, we thought that we could do something with this remake. It would have possibly a resurgence, you know, in the market, the Dead Space name. We thought that maybe it could go somewhere, and it just didn't. 2 million copies is abysmal. It's abysmal, you know, for a game that has the name of a Dead Space. So it was no way that they were going to go full-fledged, because 30 to 40 million dollars, yes, that's still a lot of money. But imagine how much a brand new Dead Space being built from the ground up would cost. So it just didn't seem like it was going to be feasible or make sense financially for them to go forward with this. Now, who knows? Like you said, like Schofield said, you know, maybe one day in the near future, but for right now, it is no Dead Space 4 happening. Doesn't seem like anything Dead Space related is going to be happening anytime soon. And I have to give EA some credit here, because there was another game that EA made that people said that they wanted. They were craving it. They couldn't wait for it. They were hoping it would get a sequel. And that was Mirror's Edge. And Mirror's Edge, the first one, I had it. I didn't beat it, but wow-wee-day. That was a fantastic game. It wasn't really a lot of shooting. You were more so running. And it was the first time I'd ever seen a first-person, I can't call it a shooter, but a first-person game actually take movement so fluid in the first-person perspective. Matter of fact, I think that Titanfall 2 has to give, even the first one. I never played Titanfall, the first one, but the second one, I can speak on that. I even think that they have to give a nod to Mirror's Edge, the way that movement system actually worked in the first person. So a game that people said that they loved, they wanted a sequel to, they were fans of Faith, and, you know, just couldn't wait for a sequel to come out. EA gives it to everybody and nobody buys it. That's why they don't. I mean, this is the thing. Right now, gaming is at, man, you talk about a gamble. Man, wait till we get into this Naughty Dog story I have. They're just not trying to gamble that kind of money. You know, that's why when I'm sure the fans, a certain subset of fans actually say, hey, you know, when are we going to get a sequel? We would buy it and all of this other stuff. They're like, man, ain't nobody trying to hear that mess. We go out here and we put these games out and they do donuts, pretty much. Zero. Nothing is moving and shaking out here in these gaming streets. And you think we're going to go out here and spend another $170 million to sell 500,000 copies? Man, get the heck out of here, man. Go ahead and sit down in a seat somewhere. They ain't trying to do all of that. So from that perspective, I get it. You know, nobody wants to take the chance. And of course, they have the numbers of Dead Space they just released last year in January of 2023, and it did not do well. So we'll see what happens with this franchise. I think it is an amazing franchise. And granted, I caught on Dead Space 3, which a lot of people say was the weakest out of the trilogy. For me, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was phenomenal. So I would love to see a Dead Space 4, but I mean, to be fair, I do have to get into the original Dead Space remake, you know, just to see these different changes, to see if the third one was that much worse than the first. But we'll see what happens with this EA. Y'all ain't on the clock, but man, oh man, it would be great to see that franchise come back, but I understand your reasoning as to why you won't be doing it. Let's go ahead, though, guys, and let's get into the next story that I actually got from Time Extension. So let's talk about the double, triple, quadruple OG Sega. Now, even though the possibility of a mini Dreamcast or a mini Sega Saturn has been turned down by CEO Shuji man, I always get his name wrong, but Shuji Osumi, it doesn't mean Sega isn't cooking up something in the background. Now, it has been confirmed that Sega has just signed, pardon me. My Arcade was actually what they signed with. My Arcade has just signed a deal with Sega to produce, quote, retro gaming devices featuring Sonic, Outrun, Shinobi, and more, end of quote. Now, the even better part of this story is we won't have to wait very long to see these devices because they will be shown at CES 2025, which takes place between January 7th and January 10th of this year. Now, according to the silhouette shown on Twitter, it looks like these products will fall in the category of micro player tabletops that range between the price range of $40 to $60. Now, this was something that I was very, very impressed about. Because now, granted, I would love to have a mini Sega Dreamcast. Not so much the Saturn. I wasn't really a big fan of the Saturn. It had a couple of games. Did it have some games on there? Yeah. Virtua Fighter 2, Virtual Cop, Fighting Vipers, Marvel vs. Capcom, which, was a multi-plat, but it played great on the Saturn. It wasn't really too many games. Knights, I think, was another one. Wasn't one of my favorite consoles. Not even close. But that Dreamcast was magic. Magic in a box. But despite them not doing that, them actually going the route of actually having like a mini arcade cabinet, a tabletop, is phenomenal. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at my shelf right now, and I got 2 Sega produced tabletops. One of them is Frogger, which I have in the box. It was by Sega, I think ColecoVision. Yeah, it has Coleco on the box, so they probably manufactured it. But of course, Sega probably did the game. And I also have, what's this? Yeah, Zaxxon. I have a tabletop of Zaxxon. Zaxxon, man, amazing game as far as the tabletop goes. It really gives you that feeling. Man, excuse me. Good grief, I keep on belching. But it gives you that feeling that you're actually sitting down at an actual arcade cabinet. Yes, it's small, it's mini, but this thing was made, what is the year on this thing? I can't get up and look, but I think that thing was made like in 1983 or 1984. Matter of fact, hold on. I want to check this out for myself. Let me see. I want to look this up because I don't want to give misinformation. All right. When was the Sega tabletop Zaxxon made? It ain't bring it up. Let me see. Zaxxon is scrolling shooter. 1982. 1982 was when that released. God dog. Who the world knew Sega was out that early back in the day? 1982. So yeah, I got the Zaxxon. It's absolutely amazing. So I'm imagining them actually doing a tabletop today because Sega, we know that they were known for the arcade. Space Harrier, Golden Axe, a game that a lot of people don't talk about. I don't know if y'all remember this game. It was called, what was it? Space Traveler. I forgot. It was something Traveler where you actually would go. You wouldn't go into the game, but the game was a hologram. It was holographic. Back in the 90s, and it was real actors, but you actually got to play the game, and it was a holographic image out that joint. Absolutely incredible. We haven't seen anything like that to this day. Something that was that doggone technically advanced. So Sega in the arcade was amazing. Outrun was in the arcade. Fantastic. Afterburner. It gave you a certain feeling. When you were playing a Sega game in the arcade, it was almost like a ride. It was one of the best interactive experiences you could have. If it was the big cabinet and you could sit in the cockpit, amazing. So with them actually doing this, actually bringing their games out on a mini tabletop cabinet, it just fits Sega so well. And just the fact that we will be able to see this at CES, starting on, again, January 7th through the 10th, being able to see these, and they're supposed to have a price range of $40 to $60. Man, Sega, God darn, sign me up. Oh, I want one. God, dog. Talking about Shinobi, Sonic, Outrun, and more. Man, what else could there be? They could go in their stash box so hard, you know, when it comes to their lineage, Altered Beast. I mean, we could be here all day, you know, just talking about these amazing games that Sega has done. So many franchises that are dormant. I can't wait to see what they do with this. But let's go ahead, guys, and let's go ahead and get into the next story that I actually got from Athlon Sports. So similar to EA College Football, EA is reportedly discussing resurrecting another sports franchise. Now, Mike Straw from InsiderGaming.com is reporting that EA Sports and 2K have been having internal discussions about a college basketball video game. Now, Mike Straw said this in a tweet, and I quote, "Unknown how far along talks are, but there are groups within both companies pushing heavily for it." End of quote. Now, just for context, the last NCAA basketball game that was released by EA was back in November 17th, 2009. So we're talking about what? 9, 19, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 16 years ago that they had dropped their last NCAA basketball game. And I think, what was it, Blake Griffin? Was he on the cup? I don't know. I might be tripping on that. But yeah, it's been a long time. So with these NLE situations going on in college sports right now, it would be dope to see them actually bring this game back. And of course, even though it may not be a 1-to-1, for the people that are tired of 2K basketball running the gamut for basketball games, this could give EA a way back in to at least be somewhat competitive when it comes to 2K. Now, again, the report is saying that both EA and 2K are trying to push for this. So who knows? 2K could still have the possible upper hand, but at least with EA being willing to possibly throw their hat back into the ring to try to become competitive when it comes to the basketball side of things, I think that anybody would absolutely, they would be behind this. Because it's never good when it's only one product on the market covering a whole market with no competition. At least this way, again, EA could possibly crawl their way back in. And the crazy thing is I don't even think that the NBA gave 2K like the exclusive rights to the NBA. Not like EA did with NFL, you know, with the NFL, the NFL, they didn't have a contract that actually blocked everybody else out. I believe the NBA is free reign. So if you want to make a game, you are very much so free to do so, you know, but they have not done an NBA live in I don't know how long. So maybe with them actually making this college basketball game, maybe that'll get their confidence back up possibly, and they'll go into the NBA arena of gaming and actually be a little bit more competition for 2K. Now, again, how long is it going to take for this to happen? We don't know. I remember when I was reporting on the NCAA situation, that didn't happen till about almost 2.5, darn near 3 years later that happened. So it could be a while. We might not see anything, you know, materialize from these talks until possibly 2028. when we actually see an actual product actually come to market. So we'll definitely see. But were any of you guys, because I can't say that I was necessarily this, but did any of you guys at one point in time prefer, college basketball versus the NBA 2Ks of the world or NBA Live? Just curious to know. But let's go ahead, guys, and let's get into the next story that I actually got from WN. Now, I found this story about, this is what I was talking about a little earlier with Naughty Dog. But I found this story about, and that definitely one of my favorite PlayStation Studios, Naughty Dog. I found this quite intriguing because, it's a huge problem that we see today. And, as a result, it is taking away people's jobs and making the industry continue to get smaller. So 23 years after Naughty Dog had been acquired by Sony, the studio's co-founder, Andrew Gavin, explains what made Naughty Dog make a partnership with Sony. And basically the reason it was the growth of game budget. So, and this is something. So it was because of the gaming budget. So starting from the beginning, the studio, and I didn't know this, but Naughty Dog, the studio was founded in 1984. And in the early 80s, Naughty Dog spent less, and these budgets are crazy. Listen to this. Back in the 80s, Naughty Dog spent less than $50,000 on game development. Now, hold on. Now, I gotta be honest with you. We're talking about the 80s. I would have never, ever thought that any game in the 80s had a budget of $50,000. That seems crazy to me. That's a lot of darn money. But it goes on. So for the development cost of Rings of Power, the development cost increased to $100,000 for the development cycle between 1988 and 1991. We're talking about a 3-year cycle, and it cost $100,000. Matter of fact, let's get a little context on this, because context is key. Let's see how much $100,000 was valued at in 1988. In 1988, what was the value of $100,000 in 2024? Let me see. Okay, so it says, all right, $100,000 in 1988 is equivalent in purchasing power to about $266,689.93 today. That's nuts. So we're talking about back from 88 to 91, they spent pretty much the equivalent in today's money, $266,688 to make this game called Rings of Power. I got another question. What was the average cost of a Hollywood blockbuster in 1988? Oh, well, no, it ain't no comparison. It says, according to information from the Washington Post, the average budget for a Hollywood movie in the late 1980s, including 1988, was around $18 million. So yeah, that ain't even remotely close, to what it would have took to actually make a movie back then. So yeah, it's worlds apart. Okay. All right. So, okay, we got that. So basically, they spent $200,000, over $200,000 in today's money to develop the game Rings of Power from 1988 to 1991. Now, they did make a bit of profit off of that title, which helped pay for the development of Way of the Warrior, which was released in 1994. That game didn't do too well. I believe that was on the 3DO. It was a fighting game. Yeah, it kind of reminded you of Pit Fighter a little bit. That Joker wasn't it, man. But by the time Crash Bandicoot released, after a 2-year dev cycle, now keep in mind, they shaved off a year from 1988 to 1991 with this new development of Crash Bandicoot, that dev cycle, the development cost ballooned to $1.6 million. So they cut the time off by a year, but due to the technology being better, they actually spent again $1.6 million on Crash Bandicoot. So by the time 1999 and 2001, during the development of Jak and Daxter, the precursor Legacy, that cost went through the roof. Now we're talking about, again, just for context, Crash Bandicoot in 1994 cost them $1.6 million. Now you fast forward from 94 to 99, which is what, 5 years? Yeah, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That cost of development went to $15 million. $15 million these jokers had to pay when it came to that budget of doggone Crash darn Bandicoot, which is absolutely insane.
What did he say?
I'm telling you, that is the reason why once that happened, and by 2004, costs just, okay, so they were at 15 million between 1999 and 2001. But by 2004, costs bust through the whole roof's side in the building and doggone everything. With Jak 3, when the cost blasted to 45 to $50 million. 45 to 50 million. So you're talking about a company that actually started out making a game for 50,000. Then it goes up to 100,000. Then it goes to 1.6 million. Then it goes to 15 million. Then they get to darn near 45 to 50 million dollars. Now, talking about the situation further, Gavin said, quote, "Looking back, it's clear that it was the right decision. Since then, AAA games have only grown more expensive nowadays. They can easily cost 300 million, 400 million, even 500 million. Could we have kept up? Possibly. However, the sale to the right side gave Naughty Dog the stability needed to thrive and continue creating the games we've always dreamed of." End of quote. So when you talk about Naughty Dog, who to me is one of the GOATs, absolutely one of the best studios in the gaming industry today, when you talk about them actually having to go to Sony and say, look, we can't keep doing this. The cost just keeps going up more and more and more. We can't keep up. We need a partner. We need help. We need to sell this thing so that we can continue to make, as he liked to say, games that they've always dreamed of. For them to be able to keep that going, they had to sell to Sony. And I'm thinking of it from this perspective. Here it is. I know a lot of people say that the industry is getting smaller. It's not good for the industry to have so many different teams under one, regime, or so many teams being bought up. It's bad for gaming. I get it. I hear exactly where you're coming from. It takes a lot of people off the market. It makes it so if you want that product, depending on who the company is, whether it's Nintendo or PlayStation right now, because Xbox isn't doing it, but if you want that game, then you have to buy that platform in order to get that game, which people frown upon today. I don't know why. I don't know why that's happened. It's always been like this. And I get it that certain things just don't work that used to work, but everybody needs a reason to go out and buy your product. So I always looked at it like, well, shucks, if I want this game, I got to buy this system. If I want to play this game, I got to buy that system. So today, though, when you look at it, having these different companies just really not be able to keep up with it, sometimes it's for the best that these companies get brought up. Somebody buys them. We talk about Ninja Theory, who I understand that they didn't really hit the mark with Senua's Saga. Graphically, they did amazing work, though. Graphically, great. Gameplay wise, from what I hear, not so much. But when you think about it, somebody like them that have the caliber of talent that they have, and I still believe in their talent, even though, again, Senua's Saga did not hit the way that I hoped that it would, I still believe in that studio. So, I mean, you have a situation where someone like them could actually be just pretty much blasted off the game and map because they can't keep up with costs. But if they do sign pretty much with a major, you get with a major label, being Microsoft, that is, now you got money funneling in to help you to keep up with the costs and, be able to keep the studio around. Now, some people can say, well, I don't know how well that works though, Kiaun, because listen, we saw what happened with, what's the game? I'm forgetting the name, but Tango Gameworks, the game that they worked on that was successful. It might not have been financially successful, but it was a great game. People loved it, enjoyed it, thought it was a fantastic game. They still got rid of them. Even though the game was loved by plenty of people, won 2 different awards at the Game Awards, and they still got rid of it. So, yeah, I understand that it's not 100% of a chance that these bigger companies buy up these smaller guys, even though Tango Gameworks was inside of Bethesda. So I wouldn't say that they might have been a smaller team, but they weren't under a small regime, I would say. So, when you have something like that happen, Hi-Fi Rush, that's the name of the game. When you have a game like Hi-Fi Rush that did well, that had no reason to get canceled or the studio to be shut down, which, I mean, listen, people can say what they want, but technically they are not shut down. It got sold to somebody else and they're still alive and kicking. So they have a possibility of making a Hi-Fi Rush 2. It's been reports that said that might not happen, but they still have the talent and they have the chance to actually possibly make another great game being under, someone else's regime. So, I mean, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's great in one aspect where it keeps the studio alive, but it's not great in another perspective because it takes somebody else off of the open market, of making games, making games that, people can still enjoy them. I really don't see the complete downside as long as they keep the studio open. That's the only thing. It's kind of like, what did they say? It's the less of two evils. Either just completely shut the studio down and y'all come up under our wing and y'all make games for us and you still get to survive, So, I mean, we'll see what happens with this. Again, the industry continues to get a little smaller, year by year. You have Sony out there possibly picking up Katakawa, as it were, the Dark Souls team. They could be off the market again, somebody else gone. But, we'll see what happens with this. It's not black and white. It's a situation where, you just kind of got to wait it out. Does the good outweigh the bad? But I will see, man. But yeah, that's pretty much why Naughty Dog, they got up out of there. They said, look, we can't do this anymore. It was the budgets. And I'm sure that, again, there are a lot of teams out there that are struggling where if this game doesn't hit, they go away. How many studios have we seen over the last decade have to close up shop because their game did not hit? Volition, one of my favorites, who were behind Saints Row. When Saints Row, well, it wasn't really called Saints Row 4, but the latest Saints Row that came out, when that thing did not do numbers, the studio got shut down. And I would have loved to have seen another Saints Row. It wasn't GTA. It was in its own lane. I enjoyed what they were doing, but because of the results of the games not selling well, the whole studio was wiped off the gaming planet. So, you kind of got to wonder, does the good, outweigh the bad? If somebody else had picked them up, then we could be possibly getting another Saints Row, at the end of the day. But we'll see though, guys. But anyway, I've been long-winded with this one. Let's go ahead, man, and let's get into the next story that I actually got from Forbes. So more Switch rumors are being reported on, and it is very, very interesting.
Rumor has it is something that only I know.
So this time it has to do with the power that the Switch 2 will possess. Now, this is being reported on by a Twitter user. His name is Dinos Parkos. It's spelled Dinos Parkos. Or is he saying Park? I don't know. But he says this, and I quote, "It will be," oh man, y'all got to tell me if you believe this. I don't know if I do. But he says, quote, "It will be as powerful as a PS4 Pro, a console that is almost 10 years old," end of quote. Now, even though that sounds great, that sounds great from a Nintendo perspective, it does, however, come with a catch. Now, the console in handheld mode won't perform at the same specs and will be closer to the PS4 base specs, according to reports. So, do y'all think that Nintendo is really going to do this? Do you think that this Switch 2 is going to be comparable to a PS4 Pro? The only thing that makes me say it's a possibility is that rumored price range that they have talked about between $400 and $500. Now, if you look at how much a PlayStation 5 Pro, matter of fact, we ain't got to think about it. I want to see for myself. Let's see how much a PS5 Pro costs brand new. Let's see. Oh, it's going to be snowing here? Oh, man. All right, let's see. Here we go. How much is a PlayStation 4 Pro? Darn, no, I botched that. How much is a brand new PlayStation 4 Pro? Dang, I did it again. Shoot. How much is a brand new PlayStation 4 Pro? All right, so a Pro, man, wait a darn minute. Okay, you can get one for $220. And some of these prices are freaking nuts, though. One is like $800. All right, refurbished $278.99. $239. A lot of these are refurbished, so yeah, they don't have any that you can get new. So let's just say, all right, here we go. All right, Walmart, they have one for $240. And that's 24% off. Okay. Is that a Pro? Man, I ain't even a darn Pro. All right, so okay, they got one for $300. All right, so the prices are gonna really vary. I was trying to see if how cheap the PlayStation 4 Pro was to try to put it in perspective to see if, that $400 to $500 range would be very profitable for Nintendo, because we know that they do not sell any of their consoles at a loss. So even if, let's just say the PlayStation 4 Pro does cost $300 brand new, even at that point, they're still making possibly $100 to $200 on each unit. So from that perspective, I could see that this could be a possibility. And it was also something else that I found earlier today that actually talked about somebody taking a picture of the, of the actual chip set. Did I erase that? I might have erased that story, but it was something to do with NVIDIA, I believe. And whatever NVIDIA was doing, they're not what they were doing, but their involvement with Nintendo, they were, in the article, they brought up that this was some newer technology that had been leaked So they, good grief, what am I trying to say? I'm up here looking, trying to find it. But anyway, listen, the point is they said that they found it. They found some leaks. Now, these were alleged leaks of the CPU and the GPU, and it looked very, very powerful. Looked like something that would run AAA games. And that's what we've been hearing. We've been hearing that this Switch 2 is going to run modern AAA games. So with it having the power of a PlayStation 4 Pro, that would definitely, even a PlayStation 4, that would be enough, just enough, depending on what game it is, to actually run modern day AAA games, because we see that to this day, they still continue to make games both for the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4, and even in some cases, Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S. So it's not far-fetched. So I'm just imagining that this could be true. Only time will tell. Like I say every single time, take these reports with a mustard seed of truth. But this would be very, very interesting that even in handheld mode, it would be the equivalent of a base PlayStation 4. I mean, I'm thinking about games like The Last of Us Part 2 that came out on PlayStation 4. I'm talking about Ghost of Tsushima that was on PlayStation 4. Even going back to some launch games like Infamous Second Son, which still holds up to this day. If Nintendo could do that, and we know that Nintendo, they are wizards with their own technology. So putting that kind of power in Nintendo's hands, that could be unbelievable if they use it the right way. So I will definitely be interested in this, seeing what happens. It's the rumors out there saying, yet again, different articles, different places, that are stating that Nintendo will be having a reveal sometime this month in January. Now, I haven't heard anything yet, but we do know that either way, the Switch 2 will be revealed sometime this year, because we are officially, once again, in 2025. Oh, it's a blessing to be here. Man, oh man, 2024 went by so fast. But let's go ahead though, guys, and let's get into the next story that I actually got from Comic Book. So this is an update on a story we talked about over a year ago pertaining to Xbox making a controller that would compete with the PlayStation DualSense controller. Now, this update is coming from Tech for Gamers, who points out that this patent is not specifically for a controller, but a device within a controller designed to generate haptic feedback. Now that's kind of crazy. Does that mean that this is going to be a cloud kind of situation? I don't know, but let's continue. He says, let me see. Now the part I got wrong with this was, I thought this was going to release in this generation, but it looks like this will be available when the next Xbox releases, which according to the Activision acquisition hearings, the next Xbox and PS6, for that matter, won't be releasing until 2028. And I have to just step away from this article real quick, because with the rise of development costs. Now, we know that the longest generation that we've ever had was the PS3 and the 360 generation. That generation went for like 10 years. It took a very long time, for us to be able to move on. Matter of fact, it came out in 2005. You had 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So technically, it was about 8 years that it went for. And that was during the time when HD was brand new, HDMIs, it was different technology, things of that nature. So this is not something that we haven't seen before. So with, again, costs going up, we know that Xbox, 360 had the Ring of Death. They were trying to get their money back from that. So many debacles in that generation. Even my PS3 died. I had a couple of PS3s die on me with a yellow light, back in the day. So with them actually extending that generation, I'm sure trying to get their money back and, just trying to, just milk us for everything they could before they moved on to the next generation with budgets like Spider-Man 2 being over $200 million. Games like Grand Theft Auto. Now, Grand Theft Auto 6 is a complete beast of its own, but allegedly costing like $1 billion to make that game. And they're expecting for it to make like 1.6 billion back in a crazy amount of time, like talking about a couple of months. They're talking about it's going to make that money back. So when we live in a climate where games are costing this much money to develop for, I could see it being a situation where they're like, look, let's slow down a little bit. Yeah, I understand that most of the time, average is supposed to be 6 to 7 years. It used to be every 5 years, but, on average, every 6 to 7 years, we get another console generation. Look, let's kind of slow that down a little bit. We need time to get money back, to, make sure that we're being more profitable because these games are costing so much more money to make. We're taking a lot more risk, a lot more gambles with certain games. So in order to make it financially make sense, why not extend this out to 2028? I don't think that's a long shot of happening. And again, this is based off of some of the documents that actually came out during the Activision acquisition hearing that they're saying that they're going to be coming out in 2028, both the PS6 and the new Xbox. So do you guys think that could be a possibility that we do go into 2028 before we get new hardware, which, man, this actually makes a lot of sense that PlayStation would do this, because think about this timeline. Now, they say, now this is according to, man, I call him the ASMR master. Who's the architect behind PlayStation 4? Mark Cerny. Now, Mark Cerny said it takes around 4 years for them to make a new console. It takes like 4 or 5 years, somewhere around there. So with them actually releasing the PlayStation 5 Pro in 2024, which is 4 years later, it would kind of make sense that it would take an additional 4 more years for them to actually make the PlayStation 6, which will put us pretty much in line at 2028, somewhere around there. So we'll see how the timeline actually matches up at the end of the day. I know these things are not in cement, but we'll see. I'm just saying that to say that I think that the timeline could match up, and it actually would be 8 years before we, another 4 years, before we get into another generation. Or at least now that we're in 2025, another 3. So, but anyway, I'm getting long-winded with this. Let me continue on with what was said. So, like I was saying, 2028, that's quite some time away. But the thing is that it looks like, again, due to the patents and the different paperwork, that they are working on a controller that will pretty much maybe not mimic, but take some inspiration from the DualSense controller. Now, the thing that I am hoping, and I was hoping for this generation, even though I love the PlayStation 5 controller. It is my favorite controller of all time now. It is. And it's only because of the haptics. That thing is amazing. Again, if you have not played Astro Bot, that thing is a technical controller marvel when it comes to what the possibilities of that controller are. Granted, a lot of developers, they don't use those features, but man, if they did, goodness, that controller is a bad mother lover. But the thing is that I was hoping would have been something that happened in this generation even though it happens with the triggers, they stiffen up. You can feel the actual vibration, when you're actually shooting the gun and it, you can like feel a doggone trigger, moving. I was hoping that they would have done that with the analog sticks. If they could make it, oh man, if they could make it a situation where you're running through sand and that controller stiffens up that analog stick and you trying to push and pull on that joker, it would just make the experience so much better. And I understand not everybody is a fan of the haptic feedback, the dual sense controller and all of that stuff. So give them the option to turn it off. But for a person like me, that's the evolution of the controller in the future, where the analog sticks, they pretty much adapt to whatever level you're on. If it's an ice level, the sticks get real loose, where you don't feel like you have as much grip, things of that nature to really pull you into the experience. That's what I'm hoping to see. Hopefully Microsoft might take it to that level. Maybe, we don't know. Or maybe Sony, they evolved the controller yet again to do something that we've never seen in gaming. So again, this is where the competition factor comes into play. And I want to be very skeptical about Xbox in a good way. Like I want to believe that they want to compete and, give Sony a run for their money. Even though Phil Spencer has basically said that they can't compete with them, it's a part of me that wants them to still be on the market. It's dangerous to have just Sony out there, Nintendo. I just don't like that combination. So hopefully, again, this controller will be releasing with their new Xbox, and we'll see some competition when it comes to the controller side of things in gaming. But let's go ahead, though, guys, and matter of fact, just speaking of that, I wonder what the Switch 2's gimmick is going to be. Now, we know that it's handheld and things of that nature. We get that. That's kind of the gimmick in itself. But I'm wondering, because Nintendo has always been known for making their controllers have some kind of quirk in it that we haven't seen before. So that's something I'm also interested in seeing what Nintendo does. Hopefully they're able to do that and not concentrate so much on the handheld perspective of this new console, but we'll see. Anyway, guys, let's go ahead, though, and let's get into the next story that I actually got from TGP. So last month, we got our first look at Naughty Dog's next project called, of course, Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. Now, it's not much known about the game at this point in time. Not too much known right now, outside of it being sci-fi and it's a sci-fi game, and it's taking inspiration I believe from they said Akira and Cowboy Bebop. So outside of it being sci-fi and taking pretty much some inspiration from those two characters or not franchises, but movies and series, Akira and Cowboy Bebop, we don't really have too much more to go on, but I will say this. Some possible exciting news has been discovered by Joanne Stick, who is a man. Hold on. Let me put respect on his brother's name. Hold on. Joanne, God dog. It's spelled, listen, Joan. That's Joan, right? Astic. Astic. Joanne's a stick. Hey, listen, bro. Hey, look, this brother right here, he's reporting on this. Now this brother is a Spanish YouTuber, and pardon me, brother, I meant no disrespect messing your name up like that, man. Just a little hard for me to get. But listen, this brother is a Spanish YouTuber who follows what Naughty Dog does very, very closely. And due to new findings, Intergalactic could feature horror themes. You might be saying, well, how so? Well, this stems from Tyree, Man, goddamn, man, my reading is terrible. It's T.Y.E. Ty Martinez, who is Naughty Dog's concept artist, whose portfolio includes designs rooted in horror and suspense. Now, another possible giveaway to this also being the case that this game is going to have some horror elements in it is Naughty Dog story artist Colin Lorimer. Oh, shit.
Move this man!
Man, I'm struggling, god dog. Hold on. This brother's name is Lorimer. He is spelled Lorimer. He actually tagged hashtag horror alongside other genres on social media posts related to the game. So could it be a situation? Now we know that Naughty Dog, even though they haven't maybe made, I don't know, The Last of Us is kind of a little bit of horror if you ask me, god dog. I felt a little tense walking around these different corridors and buildings in that game. So this isn't a foreign concept to Naughty Dog, but them actually doing it in a sci-fi setting, that's where a bit of the twist happens. So could this game, again, intergalactic, could it be a game where it has horror elements in it? I mean, again, news is very, very scarce when it comes to this game, but it's one of my most anticipated games. I don't know when it's going to come out. We don't know when that's going to happen. We don't know when we're going to see an actual look at gameplay of the game, but this game has shot to the top of my list. And Naughty Dog, they have that kind of effect on me. I'm a huge fan of Naughty Dog. I think they're top 3, best developers in the game right now. And their pedigree is just amazing when it comes to what they do. So I'm hoping that this game does have some elements like that. That would be pretty amazing. Seeing that in a sci-fi setting, what kind of monsters would they have? What would they have you doing? Would you have to creep around like Ellie with that shiv and, having to creep in the shadows and things of that nature? I don't know. But again, it's looking like this could be the case, that this game could have a little bit of horror elements to it, but we'll see. But let's go ahead, guys, and let's get into the final story for this week, starting out 2025. Now, I actually got this story from Comic Book. So we mentioned Sega earlier, but there is something else going on with them on the gaming front. Now, the director of the original Jet Grind Radio and the reboot, oh yes, his name is Masayoshi Kikuchi. I got his first name, Masayoshi Kikuchi. He spoke. I feel like I butchered that brother's last name though, but he spoke with 4Gamer. 4Gamer was busy, man. He spoke with them though, where he said he's looking forward to 2025 because that will be the game's 25th anniversary and he'd like to celebrate it in some way. So looking at Sega's recent track record, all we can go off of is what happened recently with them having a Virtua Fighter presentation. It might not be out of the realm of possibility that a Jet Grind Radio, Jet Grind Radio gets its own event to celebrate not only the original, but possibly giving us a look ahead to the future of what this next Jet Grind Radio, or as some people call it, Jet Set Radio, is going to be. So I can't believe that it has been 25 years the Jet Grind Radio released. I got to tell y'all just a quick story about that. When this game, I saw this game in, it was the Sega Dreamcast magazine. Matter of fact, I still have that magazine. And I remembered flipping through and looking at the games that were coming out soon. And hold on. No. Yeah, I did. I was looking through the magazine because I didn't see that game in person. The game I saw in person that blew me away where I actually took my clothes back to changes, was I was in Funko Land and I saw virtual tennis. That was incredible. That game was unbelievable. But Jet Set Radio, when I looked in the magazine and I saw it, I was like, man, this looks like anime. This almost looks like an anime game. I had never seen an art style like that before. It was incredible. Incredible. I mean, we know it now with cell shaded, but at that time when that game first released, we had never seen anything like that from a graphical standpoint, from a art standpoint. Absolutely fantastic. And the game was a ton of fun. Tag and stuff, the soundtrack is, oh my goodness, next to nothing, just a classic soundtrack. And then you talk about Jet Grind Radio Future, which was also another great game. Didn't get as much shine as the first one because it was on Xbox. I actually still got my original copy of that right down. Yeah, I'm looking at it right down on the bottom of my shelf. It was a double pack. It came with that, and I think, what's that, Sega Rally? Can't quite make it out. But yeah, I still have the original of that, man. It was absolutely an amazing game. And, man, I was hoping that Xbox would have made that backwards compatible. I would have had that bad boy in, but I look forward to this, man. 25 years, later, the game is still relevant. A new one is being worked on, and I am definitely looking forward to that. But anyway, though, guys, that is the end of the gaming news this week, starting out the first day of 2025, which leads me into the question of the week. I got to get back on my grind with the video game theater. I got to get back to that. But this week, and you guys have heard me talk about it a couple of times already, but and you guys saw it already, so let's go over the question officially. So what's your most anticipated game of 2025? Now, I will say for me, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, brothers, I am looking forward to Marvel 1943. God dog, that game looks fantastic. I'm looking forward to Ghosts of Yotai or Yote. That looks awesome. I mean, that could grief. That I ain't gonna say awesome. Hold on, let me kind of backtrack a little bit on that. I wasn't all that impressed when I saw the game at first, so let me not start, lying and whatnot about it now. But I am interested in it. Maybe not most anticipated, but based off of the first game, if it's anything like that, oh man, yeah, that's definitely one of those games I'm looking forward to. I would have to say, man, 2025 is so many games. Hold on, man. Let's just go over the list real quick of what games are coming out this year. God darn. What games are releasing in 2025? All right, so Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'm looking forward to that. You got Monster Hunter, Civilization. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, Death Stranding 2 is coming out this year. I'm actually looking forward to that. So yes, it's quite a few games that I'm looking forward to. But at this moment, and the question is, what's your most anticipated game? I would have to say, oh man, who can forget about? Okay, all right, let me just put all of those to the side. Now, if Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out this year, and it's reports that are saying it might not make it out this year. That's why I didn't really mention it. But if it makes it out this year and it's on track to come out this year, by far, that is my most anticipated game. And then everything else comes second to that. But definitely Grand Theft Auto 6. But guys, I would love, absolutely love to hear from you, the listener. what is your most anticipated game? And if you do want to be a part of the conversation, like I say every single week, you can do it two different ways. You can either call in at 443-627-9087 and let your voice be heard. Or you can email the show, and the email address is theanalogcirclepodcast@gmail.com. Matter of fact, shout out to you, Cody Clark. You make it happen so much. I greatly appreciate it, my brother. But with that being said, guys, that's it. That's the first one to get us started this year. Look forward to getting into many, many more as the months and the weeks go by. Really, really looking forward to the things that we're going to see this year. I think it's going to be a great year in gaming, man. I truly, truly think we're going to have a lot of great things that release this year. But with that being said, before we officially wrap this thing up and put a bow on it, always remember one thing. It is not about the consoles. It is about the games. So until next Wednesday, when we do it again, until then, you guys take care. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.